Hey there, welcome to episode 102 of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is, it's kind of weird. I don't know if I should really consider this part of my collection. I really don't, I guess. And I wasn't planning on doing this video today, but basically what this episode is going to focus on is toy packaging. So that might seem pretty boring, and in all honesty, it might very well be boring. Hopefully not. I'll try not to make it boring, but yeah, if you're not interested in toy packaging, then maybe this isn't the episode for you. But basically, as I mentioned in my last video, I don't have any new toys to show you, and I probably won't for a couple of weeks, because any toys that I buy for myself in December, I typically set aside, and I don't let myself open them until Christmas. It's just kind of my way of making my Christmases a little bit more exciting, because most of the gifts I get are, sweaters and mittens and things like that from my mom and my in-laws and things of that nature. So sure, my brother still gets me some cool stuff, my wife gets me some cool stuff, but when I was a kid on Christmas, everything I opened was like a cool new toy. So since I always buy myself a ton of stuff, and I already have, I think, a pile of like 7 or 8 figures over there that I want to open, but I'm not letting myself open them. That's all set aside for Christmas. So for the last several months, it seems like almost every video I've been posting has just been me showing you what new toys I got. So since I don't have any new toys to show you until Christmas time, I thought this might be a good time to kind of go back and do some different types of videos. And when I started this channel, one of the types of videos that I did quite a few times was I would review full sets of the G.I. Joe, either subscription service or their convention box sets. So I'm talking about the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe. I'm a big collector of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is probably my favorite area of fandom, nerddom, whatever you want to call it. I love Transformers, I love He-Man, I love Marvel, but I really love G.I. Joe. And so for a few years, there wasn't very many G.I. Joe figures at retail, but there was a G.I. Joe Collectors Club, which you paid like a subscription to join, and they had all kinds of figures that they released exclusively through the club. So for example, they had convention box sets, and then they had a subscription service where you could pay an additional fee and you get a new figure every month. And all that stuff was really cool. So I would do videos where I would review the full sets or the subscription. And I haven't done those in a while, and I never did finish all of them. I still have quite a few sets left to review. And I've had some comments. There's one of my viewers, Ken, he has asked me specifically if I could review some of those G.I. Joe convention sets that I missed out on. So this is for Ken and anybody else that's interested. Well, I shouldn't say this is for Ken. The next video will be for Ken, because what I'm doing basically is when I review those convention sets, I start off by showing you the convention box, because they come in a really nice box with like a foam insert where all the 15 figures fit inside. So I like to show you the box, and then I show you all the figures. Now, all my boxes I keep in the crawl space under my stairs. And so when I went in there to go get the box out so I could do a review of one of the convention box sets, I realized, you know what, I've got all these boxes. I should maybe go through them and maybe throw out some of them. And maybe I will, or maybe I won't. I don't know. But I thought, you know what? Some of these boxes are pretty cool. Maybe I'll show them to you. It'll give me an opportunity to go through them and decide, do I really need this box? Plus, I have a whole bunch of boxes kind of piling up in the corner of my room that I have to decide if I'm going to keep them. Some of them I think I definitely will. Other ones I'm on the fence about. So this will give me a chance to file those ones away, because that pile has been getting a little out of control. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. So just to talk a little bit about toy packaging, I know there's a lot of adult collectors that are what we call like in-box collectors. So they'll buy the new G.I. Joes, the new He-Mans or whatever, and they never open them. They take them, put the boxes in their shelves. I don't know. I never really understood the point of that, especially for certain types of figures. Because some figures, the boxes they're not very exciting. So I don't know if I have an example on hand, but yeah, Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so here's an example of what I'm talking about. Some action figures, especially action figures in the 80s, they came on like unique cards. So every character had a unique painting of that character or a drawing of that character on the package. It's like, so Ninja Turtles, if you collected Ninja Turtles and you bought Leonardo, there was pictures of Leonardo on the box. And if you bought Donatello, there were pictures of Donatello. Nowadays, packages have become a lot more generic. It's a cost-saving measure because companies can kind of use the same packaging over and over again. So here's a packaging that I could understand somebody might want to keep in the package. So this is one of the toys I bought for myself that I'm not going to let myself open till Christmas. I really shouldn't even be looking at it, but I brought it out to make this point. So this is a new Marvel Legend figure, but the package is specifically designed to be kind of an homage to the Spider-Man figures of the 90s. It's got that old font, that old design, just everything about this package, even on the back with those like kind of little blue diagram. Everything about this is supposed to be nostalgic to the 90s, and it is. Like, I remember buying toys in these packages, and I threw out all the packages. But seeing a toy kind of on a bigger scale of these, because this card is a little bigger than what they were in the 90s, it's pretty cool. And I could see a collector who grew up collecting these toys when they were young saying, I just love the whole look of the entire thing, not just the figure, so I'm going to pin this up on my wall. However, most Marvel Legends come in boxes like this nowadays. And sure, there's some original artwork on the side, but it's not like you see that on the front. So if you pin this on your wall, you don't get to see any unique drawing of the character. It's not particularly nostalgic. It's pretty plain. So, you know, I get that some people put these up this way, but if, you know, these figures are kind of expensive. If you're going to spend, like, this costs $30 here in Canada, I want to open it up. I want to display them. I want to take some pictures of them, play around with them. And I just don't really get spending the money just to keep them in a box like this. I've seen some people display them where they file them on a shelf sideways, so this is all you really see. And if you wanted to look at your toy, you'd have to file it out and look at it. And that's just not for me. No judgment on anybody that does that, but it's not for me. I like to open up my figures. If I do a quick pan around my man cave here, you'll see that the majority of my figures are opened. And most of them, once I open them, I get rid of the packaging. Now, that immediately decreases the value substantially, but I don't care. I don't collect these for resale value. It's always kind of nice to know when you're like, oh, I have this figure, and now 2 years later, it's quadrupled in price. Like, that's kind of a nice feeling, but I have no intention of selling any of this stuff. No matter how much it goes up in value, I bought it because I wanted it in my collection. So you'll see there's a few things, like right here beside me, for example, I have this figure in packaging, and that's because some figures, the packaging is such an iconic part of it, like that Spider-Man, for example. Like, that's part of the whole appeal, is the artwork. Reaction figures, for example, are really a good example because the figures themselves often aren't that great. The sculpting's not great, the detail's not really there, but it comes on this retro style packaging, and it makes it kind of appealing to look at. So I do have a few like figures that I keep in the packaging, but most things I open up, and most things the packaging goes in the garbage. But I do have a few things here. Usually premium stuff kind of makes me feel like I should hold on to the packaging. I don't know why, because like I said, I don't really plan to resell anything. And at this point, I don't plan to move. Years ago, when I was living in apartments and I would move every couple of years, that was one of the things that factored into my decision making on what I would keep. Because when it came to packing up my G.I. Joes and stuff, I would put each little guy in a little Ziploc bag, throw them in a big plastic tote, and be done with it. But when it came to big, high-end, like 12-inch dolls that were a little more delicate and more breakable, it was much easier to transport them safely if I could put them back in their original boxes that had the plastic shell that was like shaped for them specifically, so they could go in there just like they were when they were brand new, and I could move them around from place to place without harm. And if I were to resell those things, collectors would appreciate having the original box for these premium items. But I don't plan to sell. I don't plan to move. I bought a house 3 years ago, and I'm going to be here for quite a while. That I really don't know if I need all these packages that I've kept. So, yeah, let's take a look at what I've got. Hopefully this is interesting. Okay, so we need to leave the man cave here. And we'll head out here. Go to my little crawl space here under the stairs. And now here's where you'll find some of my various bins of toys that we have never explored on my channel before. And yeah, there's one of the boxes I'm looking for. So this is where I've got my toy packaging. So I'm going to haul this out and we'll take a look at that. And I've also got some boxes and stuff over here. So we'll take a look at those as well. And here comes Buster. Every time I open this door, he likes to go exploring in here and he'll get lost in these boxes somewhere. So, all right, have fun, bud. Okay, so I've got my boxes out here, so let's take a look. Now, the first thing I mentioned at the start of this video was the G.I. Joe convention sets. So let's take a look at those first. So the first year that I ever bought the G.I. Joe convention set was 2012. And here is the 2012 set. So this featured the October Guard versus the Iron Grenadiers. It was called Operation Bear Trap, I believe. Yeah, see that along the bottom here, Operation Bear Trap. And so there's not much on the back of these. Like there's a nice kind of texture on the back of the box. Almost feels kind of like leathery. On the side of the box, it reminds you of where the convention took place. So in 2012, it was June 28th to July 1st in New Orleans. Now, I've never attended any of these conventions. I just order these online. So you open it up, and basically what you get inside is there's a certificate of authenticity. There you go. There is a little convention pin. So I guess if you could pin this onto your jacket or whatever if you were so inclined. But that has a nice little spot that sits in the middle here. So let me just get this out of the way for a second. And so inside the box, you just see that's where all the figures were. So every one of these sets has 15 figures. So I take them all out because they're all on display over in my collection there. The pin, I just leave in the box. But yeah, so that's what you get. And so I think you can understand why I maybe keep these boxes. Like, it's a really nice display. And these sets were not cheap. These are hundreds of dollars. So even if I don't resell it, maybe someday if I want to display these, I could display them in the foam or something. I don't know. But considering how many hundreds of dollars I spent to get this set, I don't really want to throw out these boxes because they're nice boxes. You know, they've got some nice original artwork on the front. And yeah, so I'm holding on to those. The next one, 2013. So after I bought my 2012 set, I never missed one after that. There was definitely years I was on the fence. This was the following year, so this is 2013 set. So this one featured Night Force. It was called Nocturnal Fire. And so the 2013 convention took place in Indianapolis, Indiana from April 4th to April 7th, 2013. Now I can hear the pin rattling around in there. I'm not going to open up all these boxes because it's all pretty much the same stuff in every one. But again, there you see the foam insert, the little pin in the center. All the pins are different. It kind of goes with the theme. So this one's got kind of that green cross hatching, which, you know, kind of matches the box. Now this one, it's not as nice. Like, I know the previous year just kind of had a text as well, but it had that kind of cool imagery. This one here, the artwork isn't as nice, but even, again, as I mentioned before, just the price I paid for these sets makes me want to hold on to that. The following year, so the convention was in Dallas, Texas, April 10th to 13th, 2014. Now this was the Zombie Initiative. You can see there this zombified hand busting through this like rotted wood. And again, 15 figures in this collection. This one featured G.I. Joe. Eco-Force was kind of the main theme of this set, but it also, they tied in some other characters to it as well. But it was pretty nice. Then we've got the, what year? 2015 in Springfield, Illinois, April 9th to 12th. So this is Tiger Force versus the Iron Grenadiers. So I know we already had the October Guard versus the Iron Grenadiers just a couple years earlier, but there was even more Iron Grenadier characters to get to. So I didn't mind this set at all, revisiting the Iron Grenadiers. Plus the Tiger Force characters were pretty cool as well. So this is a nice box with both team logos on there. Otherwise, same stuff. Same texture on the back. Same foam insert. Same pin in the middle. So I'm going to hold on to that. Then, 2016. Now this is actually the box I was digging for that prompted me to do this video. So in my next video, you'll probably see me do a review of this set. The 2016 Sky Patrol set. So this was held in Loveland, Colorado, June 16th to 19th, 2016. So, again, just the logo on the front there. You know, nothing spectacular, but nice box. Now this one here is probably my favorite of the convention set boxes. This is 2017. This took place in Walt Disney World in the Dolphin Hotel, June 15th to 18th. And here you'll see this is Battle Force 2000. And that's a really nice image of all the characters. It's basically their old file card art from their vintage style packaging. So you see all the members of Battle Force 2000. You also get some Battle Android Troopers because that's who they fought in this set. So you got all these members here, and the rest of the figures were Battle Android Troopers. So this set definitely had its flaws because out of 15 figures, I think like 9 of them were basically the exact same Bat figure, which was a little frustrating. But the unique characters that you did get were ones that I wanted really bad. So this was a cool set, one of my favorites. And then the last year that there was a G.I. Joe convention was 2018. And here is the 2018 set. So this features Slaughter's Marauders. Now they couldn't actually feature Sergeant Slaughter himself for legal reasons. But you see he's got all of his Slaughter's Marauders characters. A couple of new guys thrown into the mix. Hardball here was never a Slaughter's Marauder before. And this dude here was a brand new character created for the box set. His name is escaping me at the moment. But this was held in Chattanooga, Tennessee, June 21st to 24th. So, yeah, really cool sets. I like these a lot. These boxes, if I was to save just one series of packages from everything I'm going to show you today, it would probably be these. And again, like the prior year, I really like the trend to get the characters featured on the box. It's much more dynamic than just having a logo and some text. So there you go. Those are the G.I. Joe convention sets. Okay, so now let's take a look at some more G.I. Joe stuff. So those were all from the specific G.I. Joe conventions that were held by the G.I. Joe Collectors Club. Now, you're probably more familiar with the San Diego Comic Con every year. So at the San Diego cons, there's probably all kinds of exclusives, like Marvel exclusives and Pokemon exclusives and God knows what else. Anyway, for a few years there were some G.I. Joe exclusives as well. And these were really cool. They were G.I. Joe crossed over with Transformers. So here's the first one that I got. I don't know if it specifies the year. No, I don't think so. So I don't remember exactly when this one came out. Oh, there you go. So it was the San Diego Comic-Con 2011. So here you see Cobra Commander flying a G.I. Joe Sky Striker jet, but it's actually the Transformer Starscream. So what you've got was a Sky Striker jet, but with the Starscream deco. So the jet didn't actually transform, but to anybody that's a Transformers fan, this jet with the orange glass canopy and the blue nose cone, the red trim on the wings there, the Decepticon symbols, a dead giveaway, like that's clearly recognizable as Starscream. So it was a really cool kind of mashup. You also got this Cobra Commander figure, and he came with a little version of Megatron as a gun that he could hold on to. So yeah, it was a pretty cool set. And I thought this was going to be a one and done kind of thing. It was kind of expensive to get to. Now with this box here, I actually got rid of the innards. So if I was to sell this to somebody, they'd probably be a little annoyed that I didn't keep the insides that would house the jet nice and comfortably. And the reason for that is, again, I just don't have room to keep every box. So what's handy about these is the G.I. Joe convention sets actually slide inside of here very nicely, so I can kind of store one of them inside of the other, and that helps me save on some space. But again, these are just such nice, like, that's a totally original image. That's not from an existing piece of media or anything. The fact that it has a little corner box logo here, like it looks like a crossover comic book cover. So I think I would have to hold that. even if I ultimately decided to flatten it out and just stick it behind a door somewhere or something, I think I'd have to hold on to these because it's really great. Now, as excited as I was for that set, the following year I thought was even better because my favorite G.I. Joe vehicle of all time is the Cobra Hiss Tank. And as much as I like Starscream, I much prefer the character of Shockwave, who's one of my favorite Transformers. So this year, again, it would have been 2012. Yeah, so the sticker says 2012 San Diego Comic-Con. You got the Hiss Tank combined with Shockwave, the Transformer. So, again, the tank does not transform into Shockwave, but the front of the tank, it's got his cycloptic eye. It's painted in his like iconic purple. And the Hiss Tank, normally where it's a double-barreled cannon, it's got that very distinct kind of shockwave look. It's hard to tell from the box, but here on the side you'll see it's got that shockwave-shaped cannon. Looks really cool. I loved this vehicle. And it came with some really cool stuff as well. So you got a Destro in this purple outfit. And you got a little version of Soundwave and some of his cassette tapes. And then you got a battle android trooper painted up to look like he's wearing Constructicon colors. So a really nice little set. I think a big improvement over the previous set. And again, look at that artwork. You've got the bats. You've got Destro driving the tank. Shockwave in the back there. Little corner box with snake eyes and everything. And yeah, it's really cool. I like that a lot. Then the following year, they did another one. So this is 2013. And you'll see here, you've got a Jeep, you've got Baroness, you've got Bludgeon, you've got Ravage, and you've got Jetfire. So there's a lot going on in this set, and there's Snake Eyes too. So yeah, inside this set, you've got Baroness, and then you got a little version of Ravage that doesn't transform, that she could keep on a leash. You got this version of Snake Eyes here, where he's got these little camo pants on. Then you've got Bludgeon, the Transformer Pretender in his samurai mode, which is super cool. Then we got Soundwave last year. This year we get Blaster and some of his cassette tapes. And then, of course, we get the G.I. Joe Vamp Jeep, except it's decoed to look like Hound, the Autobot. And then we get another Sky Striker, except it's got these add-on thrusters and the paint job and everything to make it look like the the Transformer Jetfire. Or Skyfire, depending on what you want to call them. But anyway, this was a really cool set. Again, really cool artwork on the front. Big fan of this box. Now, they actually did one more set. So it would have been, I don't know if it was, I imagine it was the following year, 2014. That one had Cobra Rattler Jet painted to look like the red Autobot jet, whose name's escaping me at the moment. I can't remember what else was in there. I was tempted to get it. But it didn't feature characters that I really felt I super needed anymore. The novelty had kind of worn off a little bit, and I was kind of thinking, okay, are they going to do this every single year? Because these sets are really expensive. And I just didn't feel like I could buy in the G.I. Joe convention set every year, buying the subscription service every year, buying the San Diego set every year. It was just getting too expensive. I didn't buy the 2014 set, not realizing that it was going to be the final one. If I did know it was going to be the last one, I probably would have bought it just to have the whole set. But yeah, I'm not too bent out of shape about it. Anyway, before we move on from G.I. Joe, I've got a couple other things here. So when the modern era of G.I. Joe started in 2007, they launched it with these two box sets. So there was one featuring Cobra characters and one featuring G.I. Joe characters. So this is the Cobra set. You'll see it's got this very reflective kind of foil box, so the light is really catching there. And you can tell this is the villain set because it's got Cobra Commander on there. And you flip this open, you see all the characters that were featured inside. So those are kind of like the main Cobras, because I don't think Hasbro was sure this line would go very deep. These two 5-figure sets might have been all that we ever got, but the line was successful and it did carry on for several years afterwards. So yeah, the artwork is great. That's the artwork that's taken right from the original packaging in the 80s. Inside, there's not much to see there. There's a bit of a background there behind the plastic. Now, one thing that was really neat about this is you see there's kind of this hole cut in the star, and it says press here. There was a G.I. Joe logo in here that looks just like this, and when you press the star, it played the G.I. Joe theme song from the cartoon. I've got it over in my G.I. Joe display over there, but that was a really cool kind of add-in. Then on the sides and wrapping around the back, you see all this really cool artwork from the 80s. Some of it from the comic books, some of it from the packaging. Just a nice mix of stuff. There's some shots from the cartoon there by the looks of things. So yeah, just a nice little collage on there. These were really cool sets. The figures themselves are kind of dated now. They did release new and improved versions of all these figures since 2007. But this presentation was really cool, and I liked that a lot. So that was the Cobra set. The G.I. Joe set, pretty similar. So except you've got Duke on the front there. Same thing. Press the star. Came with the exact same G.I. Joe logo. There you see the artwork of these 5 characters. So you got Gung Ho, Roadblock, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, and Duke. Different background there, kind of a battleground background there. Otherwise, the collage on the back is the same. But again, these are really cool. They're a little harder to store because of the awkward shape. You can see how they're not a perfect rectangle. So I do like the look. It makes the box a little bit more dynamic with those angles. But yeah, it's a little harder to store them because you can't just slide them inside of another box super easily. So besides those, they did release, I think, a couple of more. But I think they released another Cobra and another G.I. Joe one. I didn't buy the second G.I. Joe one because I already had versions of all those characters. But this was the second Cobra one. So you can see now it's a little more diverse. Whereas those 2 sets were the same color and basically had, the same design. This one here is now a nice silver. You've got a new version of Cobra Commander on the front. You've got the Cobra logo instead of the G.I. Joe logo. The set was called Cobra Legions. The collage on the back is different. It features all Cobra characters, so no more of the G.I. Joe characters that were on the previous sets. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Inside, so you've got a couple of versions of different Cobra Troopers, so that's why this set was still a must-have for me, because besides getting a new version of Cobra Commander and Storm Shadow, you also got a new version of the Cobra Trooper, the Cobra Officer, as well as the Cobra Air Trooper. So those were all really cool. You can always add new Cobra Troopers. And one thing that was kind of neat, it's kind of hard to tell from the plastic here. So the background there, that's really cool. You get the whole Cobra Legions standing there. But I don't know if you can see the shape of the plastic, but there's another hole here where it says press the button. And this time you got a Cobra logo instead of the G.I. Joe logo. So that was a really cool add-on for my Cobra display over here. So there you go. Those were some pretty cool sets. A couple other little odds and ends for G.I. Joe. There goes the box. So before that era of G.I. Joe started, and the previous era was kind of winding down, so what we call the new Sculpt era of G.I. Joe that ran from about 2002 to 2007 or so, and the G.I. Joe Convention or Collectors Club released some of these little sets. They were little 2-figure sets. It's called Operation Flaming Moth. There was a little storyline where there was a satellite, which I believe was called the Flaming Moth, that had broken up in space, and the satellite had landed in all these different kind of locales across the planet, which is very reminiscent of plots of the old G.I. Joe cartoon. So they had to send specialized troopers to go track down the missing pieces. So there were 4 of these sets. There was a jungle set. There was like kind of an oceanside beach set. I can't remember what the 4th one was. But this here, I actually got, this is the 4th and final set. So this is kind of the, what do they call it, Arctic Theater, and it features a snow serpent and an ice viper. Now at the time, this was pretty expensive, like nothing crazy. I want to say maybe 50, 60 bucks or something, I don't know. But for the 2 figures, considering they were just repaints and the figures were nothing that special, it was kind of expensive. And I was kind of just then, that was kind of the point in time when I was saying, like, am I going to start paying these premium prices for figures? Because I've always been a collector, but I wasn't a guy that really spent hundreds of dollars buying like convention exclusive type of stuff. So this is kind of one of those sets that first set me on that path to blowing all of my disposable income on these stupid things. So yeah, this is one of the first exclusive items that I bought. But this is the kind of thing that honestly, maybe I would keep the front of the box and flatten it out. I don't know if I need to keep this whole thing. Ultimately, these figures aren't that valuable. This era of G.I. Joe was kind of, not huge with fans. People don't tend to love it. So yeah, this wouldn't really help me transport these 2 particular figures if I were to move again or anything like that. So I don't know. It's small enough that I could probably keep it as is, but yeah, that's also the kind of thing I could probably get rid of one day. Now, the last G.I. Joe related things I have to show you are, again, I think these were San Diego box sets from a couple of years ago. So this was kind of a weird one. I am a fan of Walking Dead, both the comic book and the show. More so the comic book. I collected the entire series, and I just started recollecting it again because, if you're aware, the original run of Walking Dead was all published in black and white. They just started re-releasing it from issue 1 again, but this time in color for the first time. So even though I have all the stories already, I just started buying it again in color. I love Walking Dead. The show I kind of have fizzled out on a little bit. But anyway, I am a fan. And I didn't really collect any of the figures. McFarlane Toys made the Walking Dead figures, and I didn't necessarily love the way they moved. They weren't very well articulated. They had some really nice sculpting, but the scale was a little off. They're taller than G.I. Joes, but they're shorter than Marvel Legends. They didn't really fit into anything else in my collection, so I have a few Walking Dead figures, but not a ton. However, when they released this set, so this was a mashup between Walking Dead and G.I. Joe. And this was really cool. So you see it says Shiva Force. It's kind of a play on the G.I. Joe Tiger Force, except Shiva was the name of the tiger from the Walking Dead comic book. So this has got a Velcro box here. And basically what you see here is all of the some of the Walking Dead characters. So you've got Rick and Michonne. And they've got that explosion behind them, so it looks like they're G.I. Joe toys. And they've got the tiger stripes. So they've got these tiger stripe pants. Rick has like a Tiger Force shirt on. Then you've got Ezekiel. He's also got tiger stripes on his trench coat. And then you've got Shiva, the tiger that Ezekiel had with him. And so yeah, there was an action figure of Shiva and of these three people here. And you could just slide them open through here. The top opened up. And there they were. And the figures themselves, they came in G.I. Joe blister cards. So they look, on a card like this. That was very reminiscent of the old G.I. Joe boxes. They were really cool. So cool, in fact, that I decided to keep them in the packaging as they were. I just have them pinned to the wall. Partly because, I don't have a huge Walking Dead collection. So it's not like I really wanted those figures to display with the rest of my Walking Dead figures. And really, the appeal of these things was the crossover with G.I. Joe. And that would get a little lost if I just put the figures out. The tiger stripes alone are enough to signify the crossover. It's really the whole packaging. So yeah, I'll show you those guys here. But they were really cool looking. And so this came out in 2017. And then the following year, they did another set with the bad guys. And you see they call this the Lucille Patrol. Lucille being the name of Negan's baseball bat. And it's kind of a play on Python Patrol, which was a sub-team of the Cobra Army. So if you open this up, again, you see some of the main villains over the years from The Walking Dead. So you got the Governor, you got Negan, then you got Alpha and Beta, the Whisperers. And if you can get up close, you can see that all their outfits have that cross-hatching kind of snake pattern. Like Beta there, he's got the cross-hatching green and yellow on his whole jacket. And the background, that kind of fuzzy gray or green and yellow, that's just like the artwork from the Cobra Python Patrol figures. So again, a really fun little mashup, fun little nod. These figures I also kept in their packaging, pinned to the wall over there. So I don't know if I necessarily need these boxes because they're kind of thick since they open up the way they do. They don't look like much from the outside here. Granted, the artwork is cool, but I have that same artwork on the packaging themselves. So this is the kind of thing that, maybe if I needed to free up a little bit of room, maybe I could get rid of these. Okay, next up, we're going to take a look at what I would consider some of my most premium collectibles. So most of the things that I like to collect are things that you can buy at retail. G.I. Joe, Transformers, that usually... nowadays most figures are like $30 for a 6-inch figure. Back in the day, we were talking $20. So that's what most of my figures are. I don't have a ton of high-end collectibles, but there is one company called Hot Toys that make these really nice 12-inch collectible figures that are much more articulated, or not even so much articulated, but much more detailed, made with much more higher quality than the 12-inch figures that you can buy at the store, at like Walmart and whatnot. So these things you have to order online. Usually I don't buy them for myself. These are usually things that my wife Vanessa has bought me for Christmas and stuff. When she asked me like, what's something big and cool you want for Christmas, I'm like, I have a hard time spending $200 plus on one figure for myself, but she's hooked me up with most of these ones. So I'll show you those. So here's the Snake Eyes figure. This is from G.I. Joe Retaliation, the live action G.I. Joe movie. So the figures from these actual sets I have on display in glass cabinets out in the other room there. But the boxes are quite nice. So it's got this kind of like foil text in there. You can see that on the front there, how it kind of reflects the light. So you slide off this outside sleeve, and here you see that's where the figure was housed with all of his extra accessories. I think I still have he's got a bunch of extra hands and stuff, and I've actually got the hands still in here because obviously he only needs one set of hands while he's on display. There's another shot of the figure on the back. But overall, these are pretty cool figures. And this is the kind of thing that if I were to ever move, I wouldn't want to just chuck this guy in a bin. I would want to take him, set him back inside of this box, and then put this box inside of like a bin. And I'd feel a lot better because the figures are rather delicate. So yeah, I'd hate for that to break. So similarly, I have the Storm Shadow from the same Retaliation movie. Now, say what you will about those G.I. Joe movies. I know some people straight up hate them. I like both of them for different reasons. It's not the way I would have made a G.I. Joe movie, but I think there's definitely things that are enjoyable and redeemable in both of them. The second one, I think, was a lot better. But yeah, I loved the way Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow looked. I thought it was great casting. I thought the design of their outfits in that second movie was fantastic. And so, yeah, same thing in here. You open this up, and that's where you'd see the figure and all of his extra pieces. I've got some of his extra hands, some of his extra like throwing stars that I didn't have a place to put. So, yeah, these boxes I definitely need to hold on to, but you can see how they're kind of sizable and they take up some space. My other Hot Toys here is from my all-time favorite movie. This is The Crow. So that's the Crow character, Eric Draven, as played by Brandon Lee. So this is a cool box. It's got a kind of nice texture to it. I don't know if you can see how the light reflects, but all this here, these aren't smudges. That's got like a texture to it. You slide the top off, and there is the broken window display from the movie. And then you can slide that off. And you could actually use this to display behind your figure if you wanted to add a little bit to the display. And then besides that, then you see the extra hands and the plastic casing. So again, if I were to ever transport this figure, I would know that he would be nice and secure inside of his box. So this here is a Barack Obama figure. Now, I don't want to get political on this channel. I don't know what your political leanings are, but I'll just tell you, I am a fan of Obama. And this figure, it was originally priced at $125. It comes with this nice American flag with a metal pole. It comes with this little wooden stool. He's got alternate heads where he open mouth and closed mouth. He's got different ties, different hands. He's got a microphone. It's a really cool figure. Velcro lid on the front there, so you can see his extra head in there. You can see his extra hands and his extra tie. But yeah, I remember I got this figure on sale. It was over the Christmas holidays. I think it was like a day or two before Christmas. I had went down because the comic shop that I shop at, Strange Adventures, was right next door to my work downtown. And I went over there because they were advertising a holiday sale. And this guy, I want to say he was like $30 or something. And so I couldn't pass him up for $30. So I remember I bought it. I went back to my office. And then as soon as I brought it there, some people were like, that's amazing. And they said, do they have any more of them? And I said, yeah. And I had to march back to the comic book shop in a snowstorm so I could grab a couple more for some coworkers because people loved that figure. Now this is basically on par with Hot Toys. This is a Rocketeer figure. It was made by Medicom. But same idea. It's a 12-inch figure with really nice detailing. You open that up, so he's got his jetpack. And yeah, I would want to keep this guy in good shape too. I owned this Rocketeer before I owned any of these other Hot Toys. And this was probably one of like my top 5 pieces of my collection for a long time. It's still really high up there now, as I love the Rocketeer. I love the look of this figure. I feel if this had been made by Hot Toys, maybe it would have had a removable helmet. That's one thing that's a bit of a bummer for a figure that, you know, was this expensive. Even if you didn't make the helmet removable, because maybe that would make it a little too big and awkward looking, I feel he should have an alternate head with the unhelmeted head. But that's a minor complaint. I would never display him without his helmet, so I'm kind of fine with it. But yeah, really cool figure. Now here's another Hot Toys figure. This is the first one I ever got. And this one I got a really sweet deal on as well. So this is Heath Ledger's Joker. And I can imagine, because this is such a beloved performance, and I know they made a couple new versions of the Joker since this one, but I imagine this one's probably pretty sought after. I don't know what it sells for on the secondary market, but I got this before I even really knew what Hot Toys was, like just how high end they were and what they sold for. But I remember I was going to Strange Adventures one day, and he had ordered from his distributor, which was probably Diamond Comics or whatever, that you could buy what they called a banged up box, and it was a mystery box to the retailer. So he would pay Diamond a decent price for a big box full of stuff that was either kind of banged up or dinged up, and he didn't know what he was getting. So I remember he was opening that up while I was there. I went to see him, and the owner, Cal, was opening this box, and I asked him, like, oh, what do you got there? And he's like, oh, this is one of these dinged up boxes we get. It's a mystery box from the distributor. And he pulled this thing out, and I don't think the movie had even come out yet. It was about to come out, if I remember correctly. So I didn't have the attachment to the Heath Ledger Joker necessarily. Maybe it was soon after it came out. I don't really remember. But anyway, this is not something I would have gone after myself. I loved his performance, but the Joker is not particularly a favorite character of mine. But anyway, Cal was pulling this out of the box, and I said, oh, that's cool. And he's like, oh, yeah? What would you give me for it? And I said, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm not really looking for anything like that. And he's like, well, give me a price. And I was thinking, okay, well, 12-inch figures at retail are like around $30 or something. So I think I said, like, I don't know, 30, $40. And he said sold. So yeah, I got this figure. And there's no damage to this box anywhere as far as being dinged up. I think it was just that the outer box, the big brown cardboard box, was dinged up. But this thing was in great condition. And I got it for, yeah, like I said, a steal. So some nice, there's a photograph of the toy. That's what he looks like there. You open that up. That's where you see all of his, he came with a display base, some extra hands, I believe, a little knife, a deck of cards. You know, and all the cards are individual like that, too. You can actually splay the cards out. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, there it shows you on the back. So he's got the little wallet chain, the knife, money, cards. It's a really cool figure, and I'm glad I got it. And I like it that I got it for next to nothing, too. That was also great. Now here's another figure. This is a 13-inch figure. So it's a little awkward because he's just like an inch taller than all the other premium format figures I have. So he's a little taller than Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, the Crow. He doesn't really blend in with anything else I have. But this Aquaman figure, this is Aquaman in his classic like gold shirt, green pants. The materials is kind of reflective-y. Like, it's kind of corny and kind of silly. He's got this big, cool, shiny trident. And I like Aquaman. But this figure was definitely not something I would have been seeking out. Like, I would definitely look for a Batman or a Superman over an Aquaman. And, yeah, he was not really, just not something I was after. But he was kind of cool. Anyway, you see there, he's stickered. He was $75. But, again, my comic shop, Strange Adventures, they would do this thing. Usually, I think it was in September they would do this. Because we're a university town here in Halifax. We have, like, multiple major universities. And so come September, our city is flooded with new students. And he would have a sale to kind of coincide with that. And he would do a sale where on the first day of the sale, it was 10% off everything in the store. So if there was something that you've been eyeballing, you might say, am I going to get it for 10% off? Because if I wait till the next day when everything was 20% off, maybe somebody else will have bought it. So if there was things you really wanted, you said, okay, I'm going to get it at 10. Now, I usually didn't buy anything at 10%, but the next day was 20%, and then 30%. and you're like, okay, I wanted that thing bad enough. 30% is enough of a savings for me to justify paying for it, even if it makes it to the 60% off day. Because he basically he went 9 days, and on the last day of the sale, everything in the store was 90% off. And so even though I had gone to that sale, I think on the 30% off day, and again on like the 60 or 70% off day, and I'd got everything that I'd been eyeballing that I wanted. Some things I probably missed out on, but I got a good amount of stuff. I did every year. He used to do this sale every year. He doesn't any longer, but anyway, since my work was literally right next door to Strange Adventures, just a couple of minutes away, on the 90% off day sale, I remember thinking, like, I might as well go check it out on my lunch break. Maybe there's something else I'd want in there. Like, we're talking, like, you get a $100 thing for $10. So I thought, okay, what the hell? So I went down there on my lunch break. There was a lineup out the door. I waited in line. I got in there. The store was picked pretty much bare. But I remember seeing this thing sitting on the top of a spinner rack. And I was like, $75? And I can get that for $7.50? Sure, why not? So yeah, that's where I got this Aquaman for $7.50. And yeah. So again, kind of like I said with Obama, I got it for a really great price. So do I really need to worry about keeping the box to keep it in mint condition? No, not necessarily. But it is a high quality, nice figure. I wouldn't want to just throw him in a bin and break him if I ever had to move him anywhere. And honestly, if I ever run out of room, this is the kind of figure I could imagine me having to take off of display at some point and saying, I don't have enough room in my glass cabinets for you. You're going to go in storage for a while. I'd feel better knowing I could put him inside of his box and store him here. So there you go. That's Aquaman. Last thing I have like that. Again, this is another figure that kind of looks like a high quality figure, but he wasn't all that expensive. This is the Spirit from the Frank Miller directed movie based on the Will Eisner comic strip. So you open that up, you see he's got his accessories in there. He came with these extra hands and this big goofy thing here, which is like, I don't know, a weapon of some sort. That's what the figure looks like on the back. He's got his little removable hat. His tie, I think, has a wire in it so you can display it wind blown like that. So yeah, when you display him next to my Hot Figures, my Hot Toys in my figure case, he looks like he could be one of them, but collectors that get up close can tell that this guy was not as high quality. This was made by DC Unlimited, and I think it probably cost me closer in the realm of 30 or 40 bucks as opposed to the 200 bucks that Hot Toys cost. But anyway, nice looking box. But this Aquaman, these are the kind of things that if I really needed the space, I could probably part with those things if I had to. Okay, so next I'm going to show you some of the more recent stuff I've got. And these are the packages that have been piling up in the corner of my room here behind my door. So I want to start putting some of this stuff away. So am I going to keep this stuff? I don't know. Next up, I've got some boxes from Super 7. Now, this is kind of their new format of boxes for their Ultimates. So most of the figures I bought from Super 7 in the early days were their Masters of the Universe Classics figures. And I didn't save any of those boxes. Now, partly because I viewed their figures as a continuation of the Masters of the Universe Classics figures that were being put out by Mattel. And I didn't save any of those Mattel boxes. So for years, I'd been throwing out my He-Man boxes. So when Super 7 took over the license, I didn't bother to save those. But more recently, Super 7, they've lost the license to make Masters of the Universe figures, but they've expanded to other brands. And they've all got similar style packaging because all these other brands, they're encompassing them under one brand called their Ultimates line. So I only have one of their Ninja Turtle Ultimates figures so far. So this is Baxter Stockman. And this was a convention exclusive figure. This is the glow-in-the-dark version of Baxter Stockman. Even the packaging glows in the dark. Like if I were to turn the lights out right now, this blue outline would glow. Same as with the turtles. This blue explosion would glow. The box looks really nice. You slide that off. And you've got this kind of brick texture. A little bio. This also glows in the dark of Baxter Stockman. And that's where the figure was. So it's a nice looking box. It's unique. Like I don't have a ton of these. Maybe if I bought all of Super 7's Ninja Turtle figures and I had like 30 of these boxes, I would say, okay, this is just too much. It's overkill. But as it stands, it's kind of unique in my collection. So at least for now, I'm probably going to hold on to it, even if I don't keep it in the long run. Similarly, I only have one of their Thundercats Ultimates figures so far. And this is pretty cool. It's got that reflective red on the front. Looks kind of metallic of the Thundercats logo. This was the Lion-O figure. It slides off. Thundercats. Got a little bio. It's got a picture of all the characters. So I have a few other Thundercats figures on pre-order. So I will eventually get more of these boxes. And because there's not a unique picture of Lion-O on the box, even on the inside, this will probably be the same artwork that's on all the boxes. So once I have 6 or 7 of these boxes, it'll feel a little less special. So I'll probably end up getting rid of these, even though for now it looks pretty cool, and I kind of want to hold on to it. Lastly, in that same vein, here's their Conan Ultimates figure. It's got that wraparound comic book artwork on all 3 sides. It's that really nice bright red. It really stands out. You slide that out of there. Really cool. The text is kind of hard to read, but there is text on the back there. It's just a really nice looking box. And again, it's hard to part with these things sometimes because I do put a lot of effort into these. But as with the other ones, I might eventually have to let that go. Here, these are a couple of pop figurines. Like, when I started collecting Funko Pops, I opened them all up. And I know that's a big faux pas for pop collectors because, they're constantly being resold. It's a very trendy thing right now. And all the values and all the apps consider the figures boxed. So even though I have some really valuable ones, like Rocky Balboa or the Green Arrow, things that are on the app for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I wouldn't get that much if I tried to resell them because I opened them up. And I don't really care. However, I quickly ran out of room to store Funko Pops, and I buy a lot of them. So I started keeping them in the boxes. And now I have probably over 100 Funko Pops still in the box, and I just stacked them against the wall in my other room over there. So I look like a retailer just because it's a whole wall of Funko Pops. Now, so I don't open up any Funko Pops anymore. However, I did buy a couple of the jumbo Funko Pops. So this was Batman on Battle Cat, and this was Jaws, the shark. So I got these big boxes, and with these particular characters, I decided to open them up and display them because they're kind of unique. And then I felt a little compelled, like I need to keep these boxes just because I have every other Funko Pop I've bought in the last 2 years probably I still have in box. So now it feels almost sacrilegious to throw out a Funko Pop box. But I've thrown out so many in the past that, again, these are pretty big, awkward boxes. They're kind of hard to store. I know it would decrease the value by me throwing them out, but again, I don't care. I'm not going to sell these things. So whatever, I'll probably get rid of those. These are other ones that I've held on to just because they're very recent, but I'll probably let them go. When I started collecting G.I. Joe Classified, the new 6-inch wave of G.I. Joes, the boxes were all unique. They all have unique art by different artists on them, and they're colorful, and they're cool, and they're new. But once I had like 6 or 7 of the boxes, I said, you know what? I have to draw the line somewhere. I'm going to throw out these boxes. They don't have file cards on them, which was the real draw of collecting the G.I. Joe cards from when I was a kid. So the artwork alone on these isn't enough for me to keep these because I know my G.I. Joe collection is going to grow to dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of figures, and I just can't afford to store hundreds of these stupid boxes. So I threw them all out. But then the last G.I. Joe character I got was Pimp Daddy Destro. And so he has this really fun, colorful box with the reflective gold text. You got that very stylized picture of Destro on the side there with his sunglasses. And so this was really cool art, and I posted the picture on Instagram, and a friend of mine tipped me off that a mutual friend of ours actually, well, I shouldn't call him a friend, he's an acquaintance. I know him, he's a friend of friends, and he designed this package. He's a local artist here in Halifax, and I had no idea that he had done this. I was like, oh, that's super cool. I know the guy personally that did these, so I'm tempted to hold on to this box. I don't know if I'll hold on to it for keeps, but it's kind of a neat little thing, so I held on to that. Similarly, I recently got this Carbonized Stormtrooper figure, and because he's got a kind of reflective sheen to the whole figure, the whole box is silver and kind of got this cool chrome look. And I considered maybe actually taking him out of my regular display with my figures and putting him in this box and maybe pinning it to the wall just because of its kind of unique chrominess. But, partly that was just because this was new and kind of neat, but I probably won't hold on to that either. So that's all stuff I'll probably get rid of. Now this here, This is the box. It's also from G.I. Joe Classified, but this one's pretty unique. This is from the special edition Hasbro Pulse exclusive Snake Eyes that came with the big weapons rack. I showed you this in a video recently. So you get that nice sleeve. Then you get this box with the etched in artwork of the wolf and the samurai mask. Really nice. You open this thing up, and inside you get this kind of like etching, and then the foam, and then the box for the figure. Like, it's a really nice presentation. And so even though I've opted to get rid of my other G.I. Joe Classified boxes, this one here is just sort of is so nice that I probably will hold on to this. I kind of feel compelled to keep it. So yeah, that's that. This is another one that's relatively recent. I got a 12-inch Merman figure from Mondo this year. And it came in this box here, which has Snake Mountain wrapped all around all four sides of the box. Like, really cool. So that's just the slip sleeve. Take that off. There's a picture of Merman. Another picture of Merman on the other side. Here's another Hot Toys that I got recently, this year anyway. So this is Tonto from the Lone Ranger movie. Now, I kind of grew up having like a fondness for the Lone Ranger, and specifically Tonto, because my older brother, we both loved Lone Ranger and Tonto when we were kids. I don't know why. I'm not that old. Like, it's kind of before my time too. But there was an old movie from the 80s, or there was like a show that we used to watch, and we had figures. My brother had a Lone Ranger figure, and I had a Tonto figure. And if we ever played Lone Ranger, he was the Lone Ranger, and I was Tonto. So I know this movie wasn't very good, and Johnny Depp's portrayal of Tonto, you know, has its issues for sure, but I just love the character of Tonto. I always have. And this figure, because nobody likes this movie, went on sale. Dirt cheap. I can't remember what I got it for at Big Bad Toy Store, but it was next to nothing. So there you go. You see his extra hands and stuff in there. I just showed you this toy in my last video. This is a 12-inch Gorillas figure. So it's the character 2D from the virtual band Gorillas. And so yeah, this is another kind of big awkward box, and it does have plastic inside that is fitted just for him. Now this guy is probably more breakable than even the Hot Toys, because he's not an action figure, he's a vinyl piece. He's posed just like that drawing on the box, so his hands are stuck holding that microphone. He doesn't bend at the knees or elbows or anything. So if I were to throw him in a box, I guarantee you his arms would break off because the weight of him, the shape of him. So I kind of need to keep this box if I were ever to choose to put him in storage, or to store him, or resell him, or anything like that. So this, I think, is a must keep, just given the way the figure is designed. I have a few figures of the Outer Spacemen. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but this is like an old property from, I don't know, the 70s, maybe even earlier than that. I don't quite recall. But we had, me and my older brother, we had some of these little figurines of the Outer Spacemen when we were little kids, and we didn't even know what they were. They didn't move or anything. They were just little solid pieces of plastic, kind of like little green army men. But we always thought they were neat. They were just all these little random alien figures. And it wasn't until I was much older, and the Four Horsemen, which is the toy studio that designs Masters of the Universe figures, and now they have their own line, the Mythic Legions. So they got the rights to do these alien figures, which apparently were from a property called Outer Spacemen, and they made these little figurines. Now, I know it's kind of hard to tell what you're looking at here, but anyway, I have 4 of them. These are the characters. And there's more than the 4 characters. I think they did, ultimately there was probably maybe 12 different characters, and they released them all in a bunch of different color variations. And I really wanted these things, but they were kind of expensive, and they were hard to get. Like, they'd put new ones out and they'd sell it right away, so you really kind of had to be on the ball. So with these particular 4 that I got, they were a particular color variant. These figures had previously been released, but they were releasing them in a new paint job. I managed to get to them right away, so I ordered them. And these cards here, the one thing that's kind of neat about them is I've got the figures open, and I've got them on display in another room. But the way they design these, unlike G.I. Joe's where you have to cut the bubble to get the figure out, these just kind of wrap around. See that? So you can actually slide the card right out of the plastic, and you can put it back in there. So if I wanted to put this figure back in the plastic, I could pop this out of there and put them back in the tray, and I could slide the card back in place, and you wouldn't be any the wiser, really. I haven't decreased the value of him, and I thought that was really neat. That's a really cool thing for them to do, and I appreciate them doing that for collectors, because for me, if I get a new figure like this, and I want to open them up, there's no way I can play with this figure without damaging the card. Now, mind you, I could take an X-Acto knife and slit along 3 sides. I can open up the tray. I could play with the figure and put him back in there. But I couldn't resell it and say, you know, this thing is unopened or whatever. He's damaged. With these things, though, it wouldn't be considered damaged to have just slid the back card out and put it back in there. So that's a really cool thing that they've done. They do that on their Mythic Legions figures as well. It's really appreciated. Anyway, I don't think I'll ever display them in their cards. Maybe I will. So it's good that I held on to these, so I could maybe pin them to the wall one day. But one of the reasons that I kept these is because you'll see that all the members of the Four Horsemen design team have signed the back of these cards. So that's an original signature. That's not a photocopy. It's done in like a Sharpie. And so yeah, that's pretty cool. I am a fan of the Four Horsemen. I've been following them since they started working at Spawn back in the McFarlane Toys back in the 90s. And I have a ton of their toys. So yeah, it's kind of cool to have their signatures on the back of these packages. So those are pretty cool. Last thing I've got over here. This is from a Superman figure I got a while back. And it's based on Jim Lee's artwork. And the figure itself was just white and gray with some blue. It's supposed to look like a sketch come to life. So like this is the sketch it's based on. So Jim Lee would draw it in blue pencil and then darken it up with dark pencil. And that's kind of what the figure looks like. And it came in this really neat box. So you can see it looks like it's been scribbled on in pencil with a different cross hatching. It's a weird shape. It's not like any other box you see. It's nice and sturdy. And it's got like a magnet opening. You open that up, that's where the figure was displayed over here. And then you've got this Jim Lee sketch on the side. It's really kind of an awkward box. And I would probably never display my Superman figure inside of here because the coolest thing about it is the front of the box. And if I displayed it like this, you would never be able to see the figure inside. But either way, I can't imagine throwing this thing out just because it's so neat. So there you go. Okay, this video is running longer than I intended, and I really doubt anybody is still with me at this point. The whole video showing you boxes, I don't know. I probably wouldn't watch this far into it. Anyway, I haven't even got into my bin labeled toy packaging. But this is probably some of the cooler stuff, at least I would think, because this is where all my vintage G.I. Joe packaging and stuff is. So I actually did save some of my G.I. Joe cards from when I was a little kid in the 80s, but I didn't save the whole card like this. Like I wouldn't keep the plastic bubble or anything like that. But yeah, so that's all in this bin, along with all my Transformer instruction books. So I don't save any of my Transformer boxes, but like, yeah, all these instructions. I've got bags of those things here. One just popped open on me. But more Transformer instruction books. That's where all this stuff goes. Alright, as I go through this bin, there's a lot of more random stuff in there. A lot of loose instruction books for Transformers. More boxes for third-party Transformers. So this was a third-party version of Tailgate. This is another one of those Machine Robo figures. With Mythic Legions, I mentioned them earlier, though, so that's the original line by the Four Horsemen. Now, they do make it so the boxes, you can slide the back panel off, and you could redisplay the figures in the box, which is cool and all, but I just got so many of them at this point. I probably have 25 Mythic Legions that I just can't keep all those plastic packages. They take up too much room. So all I really save of my Mythic Legions are the little bios on the side of the package. So I've got some of those loose things floating around for the various Mythic Legion characters, including one of the trolls. Here's his bio here. So I like to save the file cards. That's what I always call them anyway. I've got some X-Men packages from the 90s. Now, I actually didn't collect these figures when I was young, and I didn't save these from the 90s, but a friend of mine her brother was getting rid of some of his figures, and she asked if I wanted any of them. And I took a look through them, and not only did he have all the toys and the accessories, but he kept all the card backs too. So I was like, sure, I'll take those. Now, I don't know if I'm going to really keep these, partly because, for one, they're not mine from when I was a kid, so I don't have the nostalgic attachment of knowing I've kept these things for 30 years. Also, you know, nowadays when I save the card art, I use an X-Acto knife to cut the plastic so that you don't get these big tears, because now the art is kind of destroyed because of this. And there's nothing really worth saving on the package. There's not like a file card or a bio, really. It's like, there's a little bio, but it's, you know, they're not great looking. So I don't know. These are relatively recent acquisitions. That's why I've held on to them. Here's a third-party box for another Machine Robo guy. Masters of the Universe box. Again, more third-party Transformer boxes. I got quite a few of those. I used to buy a lot of these third-party Transformers here. So, we got some of the Insecticons here. That was a Quintesson. Yeah, so lots of this stuff. Here is... This is the box for a San Diego exclusive Composite Hulk figure. I've got the figure actually pinned up to my wall, but this was kind of the outer box that he came in. I've got some Beast Saga boxes. So Beast Saga was like a Japanese version of the Battle Beasts put out by Takara a couple years ago, back in like say 2012, I think it was. So I've got a bunch of those stuff. I'm not going to go through all this stuff. This video's gone too long anyway. But I have here a ton of vintage G.I. Joe file cards. So these are the ones from the 80s. So like that's Toxo Viper. You can see the price. I got this thing at Kmart. It cost $3.68. That's kind of an odd price. Now you can see, as a kid, even though I wanted to keep these, it never dawned on me that I could use an X-Acto knife to cut the plastic. So I would try hard not to ruin the image. But you can see how I've torn the packaging there. I love the back of these vintage packages. It would show you all the new characters that came out that year. You get that file card that you could snip out on the back. So you could keep for your records, you know, everything about that character. So it's Toxo Viper. Techno Viper. Now that one you can see I did a number on this package here, but you know, so Techno Viper, Heat Viper, Alley Viper, Road Pig, and Armored Cobra Commander. Get a little ad there to get your William the Refrigerator Perry figure. Crystal Ball. Nah, that one's too bad. I got Naugahyde. He's kind of wrecked. You can't really see his face there. One of my all-time favorite characters, Zarana. We got Snake Eyes, DJ. So, if you remember, I showed you the Battle Force 2000 box set, and it had this exact artwork on there. So there's Maverick from Battle Force 2000. Got Roadblock, Sneak Peek, Crazy Legs, Hawk, Mainframe, Lifeline, Jinx, Shockwave, one of my favorites, Blizzard, Fast Draw, Lightfoot, Law and Order. We got Tiger Force Tripwire. So there you can see that tiger stripe motif, which matches up with the kind of the Walking Dead figures I showed you earlier. Rampart, Budo, Spearhead and Max, Tiger Force Roadblock. Now I've got more vintage ones here, but this is where we kind of switch over into some more modern era figures. So these guys are from that kind of the new Sculpt years, so the 2002 to 2007. So there we got Low Light. And so you can see at this point in time, this is when I started using the X-Acto knife. I was a grown-up when I was buying these. So I could cut around the plastic so I didn't damage the photo at all. It looks nice and complete from the front there. On the back, you still get the file cards. So that's pretty cool. So Low Light, I got a Meta Viper. I guess I wasn't using the X-Acto knife as much as I should have been. Major Barrage, I think that guy's name is. Yeah. Another Meta Viper. Scrap Iron. The Crimson Guard. I got another Crimson Guard. Some of these army builders I would buy multiples of, so I have some of the same figure. There's Mutt, another Crimson Guard, another Crimson Guard, Medalert, Grand Slam, Monkey Wrench, Cobra Viper, Cobra Trooper, another Cobra Trooper, and another Cobra Trooper. Of course, I'd buy lots of them. Now here we've got, this is from the modern era. This is actually one of the G.I. Joe Collector Club figures. This was Black Spider Rendezvous. This is from one of its figure subscriptions. So, yeah, the cards here aren't really, they don't seem to be much in any particular order. So again, you go back, I've got more vintage stuff. So there's Monkey Wrench from the 80s, followed by, this is again one of the figure subscription service figures from more modern years. So that's a Tiger Force Hit and Run. So yeah, it's a whole mishmash of different eras here. And they're literally, yeah, I don't know if I'd say, there's probably hundreds of them here. Here's the original Cobra Law packaging. So this was a 3-pack of figures. The file cards are all on the back. So I've got just tons and tons. Here's some from the Pursuit of Cobra era. So these cards are a little bit smaller. But yeah, so I got a bunch of these as well. What else have we got? Let's see. Yeah, there's a bunch here. These are some from like the movie era. So this style of card. So these are from the Rise of Cobra, the first G.I. Joe live action movie. Yeah, just a ton of stuff. Then besides that, I also have a bunch of loose file cards. Some of these are figures that I would have cut the box myself when I was a kid before I was saving the full cards. And some of these, they came packaged this way. Or if they came with a vehicle, I wouldn't keep the whole box for the vehicle, so I would have to cut the file card. So that's the vintage Wild Weasel file card from the Cobra Rattler back in the 80s. But this is the original Baroness card. Now, she was a single carded figure. There's no reason why I didn't keep the whole packaging. It's just, I think, when I was maybe the first couple of years there, I only kept the file cards instead of the whole packaging. I probably didn't start saving the whole packaging until a couple of years in. So that's the vintage Ace file card, the vintage Mutt, vintage Alpine, Major Blood. And so these are all from the old, like the vintage era. Then I've got some file cards from like the 2002 era. And again, I would say I have probably just as many of these cut file cards as I do from the like the modern era. This is a ton of these old file cards here. So yeah, there's more Transformer instructions here. There's a bit of a mess. I'm probably gonna be here all afternoon sorting this stuff out, trying to decide what I'm gonna keep, and just figuring out how to store it a little better. Another thing that's kind of cool that's in here is my Mythic Legion, or not my Mythic Legion, sorry, my Vitruvian Hacks figures. I've been meaning to do a video on my Vitruvian Hacks, because that's a really cool toy line that I'd like to showcase for you guys. It's done by Boss Fight Studios. It's an original line based on like mythology, and like the Four Horsemen, they had cards where you could slide the plastic off and slide the card in place. So I could have kept these whole carded, but again, it's just a matter of space. I didn't have room for it. But these all have really cool, unique artwork on them as well, and the packaging all has like a file card for each figure. It's a lot like the vintage G.I. Joe cards. You get a cross promotion with all the other figures in the line. So yeah, really cool stuff. And so I didn't have to cut these in any way. So even though these packages aren't complete because I threw out the plastic shell, the card is not damaged in any way because I don't have to slice anything to get these off. So yeah, these are really cool cards, and I've got a whole collection of them. I've got some cards from my reaction figures. So a lot of reaction figures I keep up on the wall, but some of them I did open up. So here's, for example, this is Hooper from Jaws. So I cut the plastic bubble off, but I kept the card back, which is pretty cool. So anyway, tons and tons of stuff in this bin. This video is too long, so I'm going to cut it off there. I hope this was interesting. I guess you guys will let me know. But yeah, anyway, stay tuned for my next video, which should be a review of the G.I. Joe convention set that featured Sky Patrol. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to thank you extra special if you actually watched this episode that was about nothing but cardboard. So thank you very much for sitting through this. Make sure to hit that like button if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends. Send me a comment below. All that stuff. I appreciate it. So I will be back soon with my next video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.